Pat is amazing. He's just a good guy. I think
the Fellowship Mass Choir. Stand on your feet. Give God glory. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so.
The Bible says in Isaiah 57:15, for thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place, and I am with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit. I'm here to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. Come, let us magnify the Lord who is high and lifted up. Come on and put your hands together. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Somebody give him glory in this place. Hallelujah. Enthroned on high. He's in his holy place. Anybody know his name is holy? Somebody ought to bless his name. He's the only one worthy. Say be. For he is. Anybody know there's none above him?
We're your punching bag. We make sure that that process is as smooth as it can be. We're that middleman between every aspect, every party that you come in contact with. So we're y'all gems. Benefits of having a realtor. So once you put out that offer, that gives that seller an opportunity to accept it. So when they accept that offer, you immediately get into that due diligence period. You have certain contingencies in your contract that help you with the ins and outs. So you got your home inspection. You'll get in there. You'll hire somebody. They'll come. They'll do what they're supposed to do, and you'll get a report, and you'll be able to negotiate back and forth what repairs you want to happen on this house, or you can move forward because it's perfect, or you can say, heck no, I don't want this house because it's not good enough. So upon that approval, you'll go through all those due diligence process, and the bank will be processing your loan, ask you for more documents, and then they'll also be ordering you an appraisal. So I kind of skipped 6 and 7. But home inspection, which we kind of went through, and appraisal, which is kind of what we stepped on. And finally, when you really get into that clear to closing step, right before you close, it's always important to have a final walkthrough because things can change between that 30 days, 45 days period, time frame. Things can change on that house. So before you end up closing on your home, you always kind of want to walk through. And I guess, like I said, the last step of this process is your actual closing. So that's always a good day. That's always a good time. A lot of times I've been to the closings, people want to bring personal checks. The closing attorneys really don't like that. So make sure that when you're closing, you will get notifications. Sometimes your lender reminds you. Hopefully your realtor reminds you. But when you're closing, you want to always kind of bring a cashier's check. And that's just a verified check from the bank, saying the funds are there, and everything will be as smooth as possible. And that's really the process of buying a home. Does anybody have any questions? Any pressing questions? Miss Ange. You have to be 21. In Mississippi, yeah. In Mississippi, you have to be 21 to buy a home here. You know, a lot of things you can do at 18, but you can't buy a house. When you're 18, can you get a cosigner? Ms. Lisa, I'm gonna let you take that question over. Molly.
Let me interrupt you, David, because we are recording. People can't hear unless you have a mic. So if you have a question, I'll need to make sure you get a mic. Okay?
Ask your question again, Ms. Lisa.
My question was, how old do you have to be to buy a home?
In Mississippi, you have to be 21 to buy a home. I did say that a little bit earlier, but when you're 18, you can do a lot of things, but buying a home isn't one of those things you can do. I think we had another question. She's fine.
Was there another question?
That'll be it. So I guess we'll now transition into Molly, Zach with Fairway Mortgage. Y'all give them a hand.
Thank you. I feel like I'm really loud, so I'm going to hold it away. But before we get too far, to answer your question about a cosigner if you're 18, so the easiest way to remember this is the 3 M's. If you are military, married, or emancipated. And if you're married, the person has to be over 21, and then you can make that happen. So there's some wiggle room. A lot of times people will just tell you can't do it under 21 because...
Let me interrupt you. If you'll stand right behind the podium there.
Sorry. Yeah, if you're under 21, we got to go through some steps. So I got to get it through an underwriter. We got to clear it with the attorney. So we got to get through some hoops, but it's not impossible. So married, military, or emancipated is kind of what we're looking for if that's what we're trying to do. I haven't personally gotten anybody approved under 21, but several of my coworkers have. I don't encounter it often. I guess it just depends on who your clientele is. But I don't get a lot of super young people. But anyway, I'm Molly Guest with Fairway Mortgage. We are in Hattiesburg, but it is a national company. Fairway believes in local teams, so anyone that you would deal with me would be local. Zach Walker's in the office with me. He's my production partner. And then our processors, our ops team is all located in Ridgeland, so anyone that you would deal with would be local, but mostly you'd hear from me and Zach and your processor. So what we do at Fairway is we create a team that's looking out for you. So you're never talking to someone that's across the country. You are talking to people that you know, and you know what I look like by the first email if you hadn't already met me, and same with Zach. So, but our goal is to really just to protect you, and that's why your realtors refer you to people that they trust because they know who's going to look out for you. So what we do is we create a team where we're looking out for you. We're looking out for the realtor. We're making sure the house is okay, and we're making sure your closing date's lining up where it needs to be because you may be moving out of an apartment or selling your current house or whatever. So all these dates and things become real important. So to get pre-approved, which you need to do before you start looking at homes so that you know what your price range is and what you can expect to pay out of pocket. The pre-approval process is pretty easy. All you do is fill out an application, and then I'll ask you for some pay stubs. The application is just going to ask you your basic information, your name, birthday, social, where you work, about how much money you have in your bank account, and it'll ask you some yes and no questions, and that's it. You'll upload your pay stubs or email them to me, and I'll look at it. It takes about a day. If you happen to be self-employed or have some kind of variable income, then I might need a couple days, or I may ask more questions. Or if you have some gaps in employment, I may do some more digging. But just W-2, salary, that's, you can expect a day, and I can have some feedback for you. The most often question that I have is, I just need to know, I want to qualify for this program. Well, the pre-approval does not stick you to one program. The pre-approval is to give me a good foundation of all the options you would qualify for. So whether you say I want a VA loan, a USDA loan, a first-time home buyer, it's going to be a generic application. I'm gonna explore the options you have because based on your situation, I might think one program's better than the other. So that's the benefit of a pre-approval because there are programs out there that you may not know about or maybe even heard of, but I know about them, and if I can get your information, I can see if you qualify for it. We just released a program called Shanoa, and it is a 5% down payment assistance program that a ton of people will qualify for. There's a lot of down payment assistance programs, but let me tell you the skinny on first-time home buyer down payment assistance programs. Your credit has to be really high. Your debt has to be really low. Your employment has to be flawless. And you know, a good majority of people will fit in that little box. But there's income limits. One that David and I closed yesterday, you had to make under 50 grand in a year, and that limits a lot of people to only a single person being on the loan. If you have two people, usually they're above 50 grand together. So most of those down payment assistance programs, it's a really small box, and it's hard to get people in it. So what's happened is we've got a new program that made that box huge. Credit can be down to 600, don't have to be a first-time home buyer, no income limits, and it's giving you 5% down payment. So if it's a $100,000 loan, you're getting $5 grand. If it's a $200,000 loan, you're getting 10 grand. It's a lot of money. These other down payment assistance programs that I was referring to with the small box, it might be 5 or 6 grand. And they're good loans, and if you fit in that one, I may put you in that one because some of those are free money. So if you fit better in that, then we may go that route. But this new program called Shanoa, I mean, it has just hit the ground running because it helps so many people fit into it. There's 4 main loan programs. There's a lot of them, but there's 4 main loan programs that most of you will be in. A conventional loan, which is what I call the vanilla ice cream of loans, 5% down, nothing fancy. FHA, which is 3.5% down. A lot of people qualify for FHA, so that's a really popular loan because your credit scores can be lower. And then one cool thing about FHA is you tend to qualify for a little bit more. So if you're kind of shopping at the top of your range, FHA is a good loan to get you there. USDA, which is 100% financing. USDA is one of those small box loans. It's a really good loan. Not a lot of people qualify for it, but if they do, it's a super good loan because it is 100% financing. A VA loan, which is also 100% financing, is like the cream of the crop loan. So if I have a veteran, someone who's active military, then I'm almost always going to put them in a VA loan unless there's something else, you know, going on. But these down payment assistance programs, the way that works is we have one of those 4 loans, conventional FHA, VA, or USDA, and we add the down payment assistance to it. So the Shanoa program, you know, we'd put you in an FHA loan, which is 3.5% down payment. We'll add Shanoa, which is 5% down payment assistance. When what that means to you is it's going to cover your down payment of 3.5%, and it's going to give you an extra 1.5% towards your closing cost and prepaids. So it's a super good loan, covers a lot. And like I said, it's a big box loan is what I call it. A lot of people fit in that square. A lot of people qualify for FHA, and if you qualify for FHA, you qualify for this program. So I've been sending out videos about this loan program. Get with David afterwards if you want more information, and I can shoot it to you. But what I want you to remember is all you have to do is fill out an application and send me some pay stubs. If I'm looking at a loan program that has some stipulations on assets, I may go ahead and ask for bank statements just to make sure you fit in that box as well. But let me just give you some quick tips of things to think about. There is something called a silent killer in a mortgage loan. I just named it. It's always existed, but I just named it. I call it the silent killer, and that's your employment history. Why is it the silent killer? Because I can't see your employment history on credit. I can't see your employment history on pay stubs, and I can't see it on bank statements, and I can't see it on tax returns. There's no way for me to really identify it unless you tell me. And what happens during a mortgage is we do something called a verification of employment. And we have to go back 2 years, a solid 24 months. Whether you are working or not, I got to document every month for 24 months. And what happens is when people fill out this application that only takes 10 minutes, they're like, yeah, I've been on my job for about a year and a half. And they'll go almost 2 years, and they'll put in 2 years. So I'm thinking we have a 2-year history, and then we do that verification of employment. It comes back that you've been there a year and a half. And then I say, well, where were you in the 6 months prior to that? Oh, I wasn't working. Well, one of the basics of an underwriting, who is the teacher of your loan, they grade our paper and say yes or no to your loan. The basics of underwriting says that your income and your employment has to be steady, stable, and likely to continue. And if you tell me you have a 6-month job gap with not a great explanation, then I can't prove that you are steady, stable, and likely to continue your current job. So I call that the silent killer. So when you do this application, make sure that, you know, you're as honest as you can be. If you've been there a year and a half, put a year and a half. If you've been there 1 year, 10 months, put 1 year, 10 months, and then put what you were doing the 2 months prior to that, so that we have a full 24-month history. That is one of the only things that I cannot see when you're doing this initial application. I can see pay stubs, bank statements, tax returns, but none of that will tell me about your employment history. So be very mindful of that. Now, as long as you have a 2-year history, we're usually okay. But just be mindful of that when you're filling out that application. Pay stubs, let me tell you what I'm looking for. I'm going to look at your year-to-date. I want to see that you're working 40 hours a week or 39 hours a week, whatever your schedule is. Dental hygienists, for instance, usually work 36 hours a week. But what I'm going to do when I get that pay stub is I'm going to look at that year-to-date, and I'm going to be able to tell pretty quickly if you're hitting 40 hours a week. I had a pay stub yesterday, and their year-to-date was $3,000, and they are a nurse, and that didn't make sense. So I had to ask questions. Well, they haven't been there all year. So there are some things that I can kind of, you know, pay attention to. But just so you know what I'm looking for, that's what I'm looking for. Are you working 40 hours a week? Does your year-to-date make sense? Does your year-to-date show that you did work 40 hours a week all year? Bank statements, I'm looking for NSF fees. Have you bounced your account? Because that can get you denied in the middle of your loan if you turn in a bank statement that has NSF fees, which is the non-sufficient funds, you know, the fees they charge you when you bounce your account. So I'm looking for NSF fees. I'm looking for large deposits, large withdrawals, any kind of money movement that doesn't make sense. Your payroll deposits should be there. You paying your bills should be there. But if I see a lot of Cash App of $500 here, $300 there, well, there's some money movement, and I got to find out what it is, because depending on your loan program, especially if it's an income-based loan, I have to decide if this is true income, if you're paying back someone, if this is a debt we don't know about. There's going to be questions. The best thing you can do is to keep your bank accounts as clean as possible. We go back 2 months. So if you know you're looking for a house, kind of financially freeze any of those deposits and withdrawals and all that stuff. It's usually not a big deal if there is some transfers and withdrawals. We just have to explain it, and it's annoying for you. So just some things to think about. So large deposits, transfers, withdrawals, NSF fees. Am I missing anything, Zach? We need all pages. At the top of the bank statement, it says page 1 of 3. Then I've got to see page 1, 2, and 3. Even if the last page is blank, I think Regions has a blank page at the end of theirs. But give us all pages. I think that's all I got for bank statements, right? W-2s, we need all your W-2s for the last 24 months, for the last 2 years, and we'll document each job. We covered pay stubs, bank statements. What else we got? Employment history. Down payment money, okay? So down payment money, once you do your application, I'll have a good idea what you qualify for. Your down payment can come from a lot of different sources. It can come from your regular payroll. It can come from a tax refund. It can be gifted from a relative. It can come from your church. But we have to know where your money's coming from. So go ahead and tell me what your plans are.
Not from the church.
Not from
Not
the church.
from the
Okay,
church.
not okay. So go ahead and tell me what your plans are. For example, if you have a relative that's going to gift you this money, they have to be willing to turn over their bank statement and show us where this money came from. It's invasive. I know this. I don't like it, but we have to do it. The purpose is, because they're going to say, why do you need that as soon as you ask for it? The purpose is we have to show that that money that they're gifting you did not come from a loan that they took out or from a cash deposit that you gave them on the side. That's what they're looking for, and that's the purpose of the bank statements for their gifting money. Where can money not come from? Cash. It cannot be cash that you've had under your mattress or in a safe, or that your brother had and said he was going to give to you, but then told you it was actually all in cash. It's not in his bank account. Cash is really the biggest no-no, and no loans. Do not go take out a loan to have your down payment money. If you have cash, let me tell you how to fix this. I only go back how many months on a bank statement? 2. So if you can go get that money in a bank and let it sit for 2 to 3 months, no one will ever be the wiser, and it's fine. But if you go drop $3,000 in your bank account and I get your updated bank statement, then I have to explain it. And if you say it's a cash deposit, then it's ineligible to be used towards a mortgage. So if you deposited $3,000 in cash and your bank statement has a $5,000 balance, then the underwriter is going to deduct that $3,000 and they're only going to give you credit for $2,000. And so then you're going to be panicking because now you're short funds when you're really not. But we can't clear to close the loan until we have eligible assets, is what that's called. So gift from relative, payroll, tax refund. Let's see what else we got. Second job's fine. Just no cash, no new loans. Stay away from that. If you've got cash, get it in the bank, let it sit for 3 months. There's no other option, okay? All right, that's down payment money. What do we got? What else am I missing, Zach? So we've got down payment assistance programs. We've got the 4 main loans. Once you do that application, that's where I'm going to be able to tell you what you qualify for. Even if you know you're not ready to buy right this second, if you have never applied for a mortgage, then you really don't know where you stand. We've had people go to closing with nothing. They didn't need any money, but their credit was good and their employment was solid, and we were able to make that work. So if money is the only reason you're not applying, don't let that be the reason. But even if you know your credit may be a little south, your employment history is a little bumpy, go ahead and apply. Just so you know, if it's only a goal in the next year or the next 2 years, go ahead and apply now because you will have no real feedback until you do. Credit Karma will only tell you a number, and that's based off of a simulator. When I pull your credit, I'm going to pull all 3 bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and that credit report's no less than, 15 pages. I'm going to get a lot of information. It's information that you cannot see on Credit Karma. And it's really the only way to know. It is a hard pull. Make peace with that. It'll go away in about 4 to 6 months, and it'll be fine. But you might surprise yourself and qualify. You might surprise yourself and be a lot closer than you thought you were. Or you may just squeeze into one of these cool programs that we have, and we can make it work. So, I definitely encourage you to apply if it's in your future that you want to buy a house, which if you're here, I assume that's in your future. Some of these programs, you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. So if you've already bought a home, but now you're renting for whatever reason, don't let that be a showstopper. Just go ahead and apply, okay? You can have co-signers. Just be aware that if they co-sign for you, they have to also qualify. If they have bad credit, it doesn't help you. And that they are also obligated on this loan. So they will have a mortgage show up on their credit going forward as well. So some cool things about the mortgage process that you will all love is we have an undisclosed debt monitoring service. And during the process with me, if you do anything, if you give anybody your social, if they do a soft pull, hard pull, if you even think about having your credit pulled, I have a little service that gives me a ding, and now we have to talk about it. So I will remind you before we kick off this process, but just be mindful. Don't let anybody pull your credit. Your trigger for that is if someone's asking you for your social and birthday, they're about to do a soft pull. That can be cable companies, that can be insurance companies. It can be a lot of things that you're not thinking about. It could be a storage room, a lot. But if they do that, then I get a ding and we have to talk about it. And you know what? A mortgage is not the most fun thing of the loan. In fact, it's the most inconvenient part of the process, and it is a pain. But you only have to do it one time. And my recommendation is that you choose some folks that are really going to look out for you and make sure you get to the table. We don't care what your loan amount is. I don't care what your sales price is. I don't care how good or great or bad your credit is. When I'm looking at an application, my only thought is, can I get this person to the table? Can I get them to the table? If they enter a contract, can we get to the closing table? Can they end with a home? I don't care if it's 70 grand, 80 grand, 100, 200, whatever, it doesn't matter. I also do mobile homes, which are not very difficult to do. So if you're looking at double wide mobile homes, that's fine. Single wide's a little harder, but we can also do that. So, unless you're just looking at some kind of atypical property, we can do most homes. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I've covered a lot.
I'm going to give this mic to David. I think there was a question online. Okay. And if you'll cover that side, David, I'll get a mic and cover this.
Okay.
Yeah, we did have a Facebook question. She said, what if you don't have a banking account? So I guess she's assuming she has other assets.
Okay, so if you don't have a bank account, the easiest thing for you to do is to get one. If you don't use it for anything other than this process, probably I haven't encountered many people that didn't have a bank account. I have encountered people that had like a Chime account, some of those, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're just incredibly hard to document. It's hard for you to get statements. So honestly, just for ease of process, I would say go open a bank account. Most banks will let you open one for $20. It's not a big, but you're going to need one for your earnest money. Your earnest money, any money in this process, we are going to document. So don't think that you can take the $500 in your safe and pay your earnest money, because we're going to have to ask where it came from. Any money movement period in this mortgage process has to come from payroll, seasoned money, sourced money. It came from a taxable source. So just be mindful of that. But a bank account, just opening a bank account would make your life a lot easier for this process. Any other questions?
Right on point, and my DTI is good, and I'm 2 weeks out to closing. Will it be okay for me to go buy furniture on credit or go get a new car?
So, you know what? We joke about this, but people do it. Do not go buy a car. Do not go buy furniture. Do not put anything, I don't care if it's interest free, it does not matter. Because remember, I have pre-approved you for what you have applied. You've applied, I've pulled credit, and I've pulled that debt. If you go obtain new debt, I can no longer guarantee your approval. And as a matter of fact, you might void your approval. And we will know about it because of that debt monitoring service. I'm going to get a ding probably immediately. I have called people while they were on the golf course and asked them why I have an inquiry from a dealership. So we will know about it. Don't go buy anything. So look, a lot of times we get a clear to close well before your closing date. Just because you're clear to close, that does not mean you can go do anything. Until you have left that table, do not anything to your credit.
What about if I switch jobs?
If you switch jobs, your deal's probably dead. Probably. I have had people say, look, I'm interviewing for a job, and I'll say, okay, well, let's hold up. Find out if you're going to get that job. Let's review that income. There are, you may think it shouldn't be an issue. I'm going to make more money. Well, it does matter because it matters on the income type. If you are hourly, I need to know that you're working 40 hours a week. If you're salary, that's fine as well, as long as you're full-time. If you make commission, I need you to be on that job probably 2 years for most loan products. If it is incentives, bonus, you're getting a lot of overtime. And there's a lot of jobs out there where majority of the money is made in overtime. Guess what? If you haven't been there 2 years, I can't use any of that variable income. And variable income is overtime, bonus, incentive, anything on top of your hourly or salary. Variable income requires a 2-year history. You're probably asking me, why do you want a 2-year history on that? Because it is variable, and underwriting says it has to be steady, stable, and likely to continue. And the only way to prove that it's steady, stable, and likely to continue is if you have 2 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back 2 years on all that overtime, and I'm going to average it out by 24 months. And that's the number that I'm going to use to qualify you on. So if you've only been on this job for 2 weeks, I have nothing to average out for 2 years. And so it's ineffective income, and we don't know if it's likely to continue. So that's why. Everything's a pattern. Employment's 2 years, bank statements are 2 months. But as far as likely to continue, we need 3 years. As far as that 3 years goes, it's worth mentioning that if you have child support income, it has to continue for 3 years. So if you have a 17-year-old son, and the child support ends at 18, well, then we don't need to use that income because it's not likely to continue. You have a question back here?
Back here in the back, David.
I had a question.
Sure.
What about student loans?
So student loans are a pain, and unfortunately, regardless of your repayment structure, whether you're income-based, whatever, we have to hold a payment against you. Fortunately, since COVID, the government has decreased how much we have to hold against you. So prior to COVID, I was having to deny so many people just because they have student loans, and it was throwing their debt ratios too high because I was having to count a payment whether they were paying or not. Since COVID, they actually reduced the payment that I have to hold against you in half. So it opened back up the doors for a lot of people to qualify who didn't qualify prior to. So if you've ever filled out an application and you didn't qualify for that reason, reapply. There are some student loans for VA loans are calculated completely differently. So that's just something to look at. But yeah, we have to hold a payment against you. If there's an astronomical amount, it could hurt you.
What about the retired veteran? Do they still have to have a job on the side, or just their retirement payment and plus whatever they get, like Social Security or something like that?
Yeah, so yeah, they're still eligible for a VA loan, and if they're retired, we can use Social Security for income, VA disability income, or benefits. Lots of income. I mean, we can use all of it. You don't have to be employed, period. I just did a loan for someone with just a conventional loan, and we just used their retirement assets and Social Security, and they bought a $250,000 house.
Okay, but how about the age limit with
No
the
age limit.
VA? Say like if they are in their 70s.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter, because that's considered discrimination against age. It's not allowed. So you can, I've done 30-year mortgages for 80-year-old people. It doesn't matter. I just did one for my mother-in-law. She's 75. So it doesn't matter, because we don't discriminate on age in that respect. So good question.
Got another Facebook question.
Okay.
What if your spouse has been on a workman's compensation since 2019? How will we verify income?
So workman's comp, it just falls under that 3-year rule. If that workman's comp is likely to continue for 3 years, and you can give me something in writing that says it's going to continue for 3 years, I can use it. Probably can't get that, but if you could, I mean, if you can get your hands on something that says, they will receive X amount for the next 36 months, it's fair game. Now, if it's where it's reviewed on a basis, every 6 months we re-review this case, then it's out. So 2 years job history, 2 months bank statements, and everything we use has to be likely to continue for at least 3 years. So if you are on a job that will end in 7 or 8 months, that will be an issue, which, I mean, that's not usually the case, but if it is the case, just make sure you let me know so we can address that. I think I covered everything. So one thing to know about us that other lenders don't do is, not only is everybody you're dealing with local, we all work very closely with your realtor. We know them personally, and we're looking out for you just like we look out for our relatives, because our end goal is to make sure you get a house at the end of the day and that we can get you to the table. If you are considering using an online lender, let me tell you what will happen, because I've seen it. I didn't read about it, I didn't hear about it, I've seen it. I've been closing loans since 2015, and I've had people crying in my office because they had something arise in the middle of their loan, and they were dealing with an online lender who may or may not answer their phone, and they don't really know where they're physically located. But let's say a deposit shows up on your bank statement, and the loan officer knows that the underwriter is going to reduce your assets by that amount, and you no longer don't have the cash to close, per mortgage guidelines. Instead of calling you to try to work that out, they may have 10 other loans, and they may just end your loan and go work on those 10, because those 10 are easier, because they don't have to see you and they don't really have to answer your phone call. And then what happens is your realtor starts calling them to try to get updates, and they won't answer. You're calling, and then you're starting to ask for managers, and you still can't get anyone, and in the meantime, your contract has expired. So, just be aware that can happen. Also, most lenders online will not ask you any questions. If your credit score is halfway decent, they will give you a pre-qual letter. They'll give you a pre-approval letter. You'll think you're good to go, and maybe you're not. We're actually it's more important for me to go ahead and look at that income when you apply. It takes more time on my end. Do I have to do it? No, I don't. But I want to do it, not only to protect you, but to protect you from entering a contract and to protect your realtor because your realtor is fighting for you. When you find a house that you love, they're fighting for you. So I want to make sure that when your realtor is fighting for you, they have a pre-approval that is good. And also when you apply, if your application is not great, if it's not in great standing, then let's identify what's wrong so we can fix that. I have had borrowers who are using down payment assistance loans, and the sellers did not want to work with someone that needed down payment assistance. They didn't think it was a solid pre-approval. Well, the realtor came back and told me that, and I said, no problem. Let's get this file underwritten right now. It takes me about 2 to 3 days. Had their file fully underwritten. So then the realtor went back out and said, this pre-approval's with Molly Guess, and she's already had it fully underwritten. Guarantees we will close in 25 days. And guess what? They got the offer, and they had put a contract on maybe 15 houses before then. But then they got it. So, that's why it's important to have your lender and your realtor all on the same team. So I hope that, if you've applied online and didn't get approved or did get approved, that you will reconsider applying with me, or at least someone you trust, even if it's not with me. But I hope it's with me. And let's look at it and make sure that you're good to go and fully prepared. My website is mollymortgage.com, Molly with an E. You can apply there. David can send you an app, but you can apply on my website anytime and just shoot me your pay stubs. Say, hey, Molly, I met you at the Home Buyer Fair with David. Will you check out my application? And we'll knock it out for you.
Thanks, Molly. Again, Molly and Fairway Mortgage and Zach too, they're amazing. Like, she's really speaking on how they're family, and they'll fight for you. They'll go to war for you. We've done it a couple times to the nitty gritty. So thank y'all for coming. I think we're gonna do a drawing.
Molly just spoke of the different finances you can have. She spoke of 4. Can anybody give me 2 of those? I'm sorry? Yeah, you got it, ma'am. You got a $25 gift card. Thank you.
All right, I think we have 3 more of those. So next, we're gonna have an amazing guy come up. This is probably the best personality I've ever met in this business right now. Like I said, cool as a ceiling fan, but he's gonna come speak to us about home inspections. His name's Pastor Real.
Like he said, my name's Pat Sarles. A little bit about myself. I'm a retired veteran, 25 years in the military. Well, 25 years, 3 months, 8 days, not that we're counting. But I retired in 2015, went and worked in pipeline for a few short years, and then not to get into politics, but they shut down the pipeline, so here I am. I started my own business January of 2021. And it has been a whirlwind since. So my first year, I did over 300 inspections. And this year, I may come close to doubling that. I'm not sure yet. So it's been a crazy year. With the market the way it is and all the things that Molly was talking about, I'm sitting here taking notes in my mind because I'm in the process of building. Well, I'm going to start in January. I have to own my own business for 2 years. So if not, I've had a couple banks say, well, we'll loan to you now, but it's going to be a variable rate loan. And I said, no, I'm not doing a variable rate loan. I'm not doing that. So, but I was taking notes, and that was very good, very, very helpful. I love that. So, but like David said, we're here to help y'all out. We're here to guide you through one of the toughest processes I think that there is out there. But it's one of the most rewarding. So once you get working with David or his co-workers or whoever, David is one of my favorite as well. So I've been associated with a lot of realtors in this last year and a half, and some I work with very well, and some I hope they don't call me again. But David, I'm happy to see it. Every time I see his name pop up on my phone, it makes me happy. So, but what we can do is whenever you make it through David's process and y'all find a home and you make it through Molly's process and you get your funding and everything, that's the first and foremost. Once you get all that done, don't wait 5 or 6 days to call a home inspector, anything like that, because we are booked up typically right now, about 8 days I'm booked out right now. So I'm already booked pretty much through the whole next week and almost into the following week. But you only have 10 days to get your home inspected. So once that 10 days is up, you cannot negotiate anything from my inspection report. So once you get me scheduled, you don't have to call back and say, hey, are you going to do this tomorrow? Are you going to do this Wednesday? Whatever. Once I write your information down, you're good as done. So I do send out a form before I ever show up to the house. It's called a pre-inspection agreement. And some people think, when I say it's a non-arbitration agreement, they think, oh, this means if I sign it, I can't sue him if he misses something. It doesn't mean that at all. But what that non-arbitration agreement means is if I do miss something, that means my insurance will back me. So, and if I don't have that form signed, my insurance won't cover me. So therefore, me and you are going to be on bad terms if I do miss something. It happens, and I'll say that. Every inspector will miss something every now and then. So, but we're going to go into the house, and I have in Hattiesburg, I think there's probably close to 10 of us in Hattiesburg. I'm pretty much the newest guy, but when I go in your house, I don't think about what the next house is going to be. I don't think what the last house was. I think about your house and your house only. So sometimes I'll ask questions like, is this rental property? Because some investors buy a lot of rental property. Or is this for you? Is this for your children? Whatever. I'll ask, what ages are your kids sometimes? Because it matters. When I'm checking, like I check a hot water heater or a water heater. When I check it, I'm going to check the temperature that it comes out at the spigot. And if it's over 120 degrees, I'm going to tell that seller they've got to turn it down for the simple fact that I know a child's hands can burn in less than 2 seconds if it's over 120 degrees. So I was in one yesterday, the temperature was over 160 degrees. So that is immediate burns for a child. So I don't want to live like that to worry about that kind of stuff. So some realtors will call inspectors deal killers. And if I can kill a deal, it wasn't me that did it. It was the seller that did it. They're the ones that neglected that house. But I don't want to kill any deals because, this is your livelihood. This is the realtor, the lender. Everybody is relying on me. So, but what I'll do, if I see a house that, say it has a bad electrical panel, and I've run into quite a few of those. On that bad electrical panel, there's several of them that if I see a certain, like if I see a Federal Pacific stab block, it's called a stab block breaker panel. If I see one, it is supposed to be removed. So I've had 3 different instances where I said this breaker panel needs to be replaced. And I've had a buyer say, well, can we just overlook it? Well, if you want your kids to be in the house with a breaker panel that will not trip and catches on fire, that's between you, your realtor, your lender, because I've already written my report. Once I write that report, I don't change the report. So that's something that is stuck with that house. But if you and the seller don't want to replace it, then that's between y'all. So, but every time I go into one, I look at it objectively. I don't, we were talking about earlier, empathy, not sympathy. I empathize with people that are buying houses that some of them, they may say, this is my dream house. But when it comes down to it, when I get up underneath that house, if it has rot under it, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, well, it's not bad rot. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say it's got rot under it and needs to be replaced. I have, and I almost brought it in with me, I have a remote control that, like, is that rain? Okay. But I have a remote control that I send up under the houses, and I have a 4K camera on it, and I've got a video camera and everything, and I drive it like you do a car. But when it goes up under the house, it only requires 5 inches of clearance. And the state of Mississippi says if your crawl space, a lot of houses in Columbia are actually raised foundations. The state of Mississippi that I work for says if it's not 18 inches high and 24 inches wide, I'm not allowed to go under that house. Now, plumbers can go under there, electricians can go under there, but for home inspection purposes, we're not allowed to. But with my crawler, I can get into a 5-inch space. So, and I use it every day, just about. And, but when it goes into that 5-inch space, I'm gonna drive it all up under the house where I have clearance, and I'm gonna take pictures. So each house that I do that has a crawl space, they typically have 15 to 20 pictures under the house. And I don't just put pictures of bad stuff under a house. I'll put, if the wood looks brand new, I put that in there, because if it looks I've seen houses that were 60 and 70 years old, and when I got the pictures, when I looked at them on my computer at home, they look brand new. Some of them look better than brand new houses. So, you know, I put that in there because I want you to know that's what the underneath of your house looks like. I've found sewage lines that were dripping. Now, it may be 2 or 3 drips a minute, not much at all, but over time that adds up, because anytime you have any type of moisture under a house, you're going to have wood rot, you're going to have mold, mildew, things like that. And I've seen some houses that had probably 1/2 inches of mold built up under the house. But I've also seen some down on the coast where it's high humidity down there, worse than here, that I've been up under houses that had 1/2 inch of mold. I went back a month later and it looked brand new. They had people go in there and clean them, which it can happen. So that's why you got to work good with the sellers, that they're gonna repair whatever we ask for a lot of times. Sometimes the realtors will negotiate repairs, or they'll use my list to negotiate the price. I've got some investors that'll say, beat it up good because I want to negotiate. You know, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to work with you. And I've had some buyers that call me up. I had one lady, I inspected one house for her, and I told her, I said, it's got a lot of problems. I said, it needs a whole new roof. And very rarely do I ever say it needs a whole new roof. A lot of them need repairs, but very rarely do they need a complete roof. This one, I said it needs a complete roof. It had all kind of issues inside. And she said, you know, she backed out. She couldn't go through with the sale. Well, about 3 months later, she called me up. She said, you remember me? I said, yes, ma'am, I do. What can I do for you? She said, I found another house. I didn't even know she backed out of the first one. She said, I found another house, and I want to know if you can inspect it for me. I said, yes, ma'am, I'd love to. And and I told her, I said, I actually have a cancellation tomorrow afternoon. I can do it then. And she goes, I wasn't expecting it being so soon. And I said, is there a problem with me doing it tomorrow? And she goes, well, I'm on a fixed income, and I don't have the money to pay you for it right away. And I said, well, this is my only availability. I said, I'll go ahead and do it tomorrow. You pay me whenever you can. I said, the first time you paid me, I didn't have to track you down. I didn't have to do none of that. You came to me, you paid me. I said, I'll trust you again. A lot of my competitors over in Hattiesburg, they'll make you pay up front, and if something happens to that house and they can't get there that day, you don't get a refund. So I just can't live like that. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. I say they're prima donnas. My competitors are. A lot of them are. But I'm looking out for you. I want you to get a house that you're going to be happy with. And like Molly's talking about, once you get to that table, once you get up from that table, that house is yours. I don't want you to have to go home and start working on that thing, and then you call me saying, Mr. Pat, you didn't tell me about this. You didn't tell me about this. So I'm going to try to tell you everything that there is to know about that home. And, you know, I mean, we inspect below the ground all the way to the very top of the house. So I'm going to walk the roof if I can. I'm going to get up underneath it if I have to. Because typically when I put my crawler up under that house, if I see some wood rot or something like that, that's when I pull my crawler out. I go get my coveralls on and I start crawling. I'll go up under there and I'll find the spot that it is. I'll check it, make sure it's not completely gone. If it can be repaired, that's one thing. If it's got to be replaced, that's something different. So, but we're going to try to do that the best we can. Typical house I'm in, I typically take 2.5 to 3 hours per house. I've been in some houses that I've inspected and it took 6 hours to inspect. It's all different on the condition, the size, the location, whether it's got a crawl space. It's a lot of different variables go into that. So it's, I tell people, be patient. And, like day before yesterday, I was at one, it took me 5 hours because the guy was asking me questions. Every time I took a picture of something, he was asking me questions. And if that's the case, there's no sense in even doing a report. I mean, he's with me. He saw everything I did, and it took me forever to get done with it, but it was okay. We did it. We got through it, and we actually didn't even finish it because there was so much water under the house. We got to go back once it dries up to look for rot, because we're not going to crawl through water, and that's any inspectors. We're not going to do that because you got sewage lines under that house. I don't know if it's from the rain or if it's from sewage, what it's from. So it is against our regulations, our policies, to get up under there when there's water on the ground. So we won't do that. And my remote control is not waterproof, so I don't put him through it either. I call him a him. He's like my kid. I named him and everything. And if I have a bunch of business cards outside on the table, and you'll see he's on my business card with me. So because he saves me a lot of work. So I like him. He's my buddy. But like Molly was saying, there's a lot of different loans. And even I'll ask you when I start doing my report, what type of loan are you doing? Because I know if it's a VA loan or if it's an FHA loan, that anytime I put wood rot in my report, they're going to make that homeowner or the seller, they're going to make them repair that before it ever gets to the closing table. So where, a conventional loan, they're going to look at it differently. They don't make you do everything. Where, the VA is very, very peculiar on the home inspection, and so is FHA. So I take that into consideration when I'm inspecting that house. I may word it differently, but I do take it into consideration. I'm still going to list it, but it may be how I word it differently. So, but I'm going to try to help that buyer any way they can, or any way that I can help them. Trying to think. Roofs, a lot of people get very upset about a roof when I go on a roof, and there's a lot of them I don't like to walk because I weigh almost 250 pounds. If I go through a roof, it's my fault. So it's my responsibility to fix that roof. In the state of Mississippi, they don't require us to walk a roof, but they do require us to look at every shingle on that roof. So if you have a roof that goes up and comes down on the back and it goes back up, I've got to get up there to look at that valley that's up there. So, and I've actually put my crawler up on the roof before and looked, because it'll go up a big incline and I don't have to walk on them that way. A lot of times some people will tell you that walking a roof will do more damage to it than it will to examine it. So it's when you walk a roof, the granules on that shingle can be removed. And a lot of times if I'll get to the edge of a roof and I feel those granules coming off, I'll immediately back off of it because I know I'm going to do more damage to it than I'm going to do good. So, but whenever I get on my ladder, I'll typically rub my hand on the shingles. And if the granules come off in my hand, I'll just take my ladder and I'll walk it all the way around the house instead of climbing up on that roof because I don't want to do any more damage to that roof. If the granules are coming off, it's not a showstopper, but it's something that we do need to annotate in the report. And then, I may tell you, the roof is nearing the end of its life cycle where it doesn't have to be replaced now, where a lot of times, we live in the South, we know how we have tornadoes, we know how we have hurricanes. And if it's close to being finished as a roof, a lot of times people will say, well, I'm not going to worry about it. We're just going to claim it on insurance next hurricane we get. Yeah, that's between you and your insurance company. I can't promise you that they're going to replace it due to that. So, but it is things to consider like that. So, but the roof, The inside of the house, one of the big things some people have nicknamed us GFCI police. And if anybody knows what a GFCI is, it's the breaker that basically, or it's the electrical outlet that basically has a breaker built into it. That's one of the biggest things that we inspect is the electrical part of a house. The electrical part of the house is your, we say the backbone, but if you have bad electrical, you have bad everything. So, because electrical is going to go in, your lights are going to flicker every time somebody turns something on. Next door neighbor hits a welding rod or something, your lights are going to flicker. That's all things that can be prevented. So I'm going to make sure that you have enough power in that house to push everything in the house. I'm going to look at all your breakers. I pull all the breaker panels apart. I pull your service panel apart. I'm going to make sure there's no double taps, like 2 wires going into one breaker, which, that can cause a lot of problems. One this week I saw where because you have your service feed on the outside of the house and you have a breaker panel on the inside of the house, where the wire that goes from the outside to the inside, and then these people ran an extra breaker panel, so where the feed comes into the top of the breaker panel, they ran some more wires out of that one going to the next breaker panel. So they got the main lugs double lugged. One of them is aluminum, the other one's copper. Well, and luckily when I was working on the pipeline, I dealt with corrosion, and I was a corrosion inspector on the pipeline. And one of the biggest things about corrosion is if you have 2 different types of metal, it's going to corrode. It's a thing called dissimilar metals, and the weaker the metal is, the faster it corrodes and it goes away. So like if you have a copper wire and you have an aluminum wire, aluminum is the weaker of the 2, and aluminum is the one that can actually catch on fire. So when you run 2 of them together, that aluminum is very likely to cause problems down the road. So we call that out immediately, but we don't stop the sale. We just advise a qualified electrician to come in. They come in and they'll move them and they'll fix them right. So it may take an electrician an hour to fix something that could have caused you a problem a whole lifetime. So, a lot of these things can be repaired in no time, and that's what, me and David have done a lot of deals together where, when some realtors say, well, the repairs are a negotiation, where David's going to say, we want it all fixed, and then make them tell him no, which is a great thing. So I want to see everything get fixed, because I don't nitpick when I'm doing these inspections. I find out what can be a danger, what can be a hazard. If you can see sheetrock through the paint, that's not an issue with me, because that's just cosmetic, and we don't do aesthetics or cosmetics. So we just do what can be dangerous or hazardous in that home. So, but whenever I get my report done, when I leave the house, I'll immediately download it to my computer. When I get home, I'll open up my computer, I'll clean up that report. I send my report out the same day, as long as I can get a hold of the buyer and I can go over it with them that night or the next morning. And I'll send them, and this is a bad thing, but I'll send them a Cash App or a Venmo. And my business, it just survives on Cash App or Venmo. And when I build my house, I'm gonna be in trouble, I know. But when I do these, it's the easiest way to get paid nowadays. And I don't have to ask somebody for their credit card information. People get leery. They give credit card information to somebody they've never seen. And I just did a service for you, and I expect to get paid, but I don't want everybody's credit card information if I can help it. So Venmo and Cash App are great for me. So, but whenever I do that, I'll send it out the same day. And then when I call them and I go over the report, I can say more things on the phone than I can in that report. And that's not because I'm hiding anything in that report, but in the state of Mississippi, I can't say your house has termites. I can't say that because that's a pest control guy's job. So, and he's going to get paid to go in and inspect it also. I've found houses before, I found termites in houses before where the pest control guys didn't find it because my crawler could go places where they couldn't go. So, and then I've, pest control, and then Wood boring insects goes along with that as far as, carpenter bees. Anytime I see holes in wood that have been formed by carpenter bees, I'll put signs of or history of wood boring insects. And the reason I do that is because when that pest control guy goes in there and he starts looking at it, he goes, oh, you've got, these things are destroying your house. Yeah, yes and no. It's not, a wood boring insect is not going to make the walls fall down. And they're going to make you believe they will. But what I'll do is I'll put that in the report. So when David calls me up, he said, hey, I've got a WDIR, which is a wood destroying insect report from the pest control guys. I got a WDIR in this house. Can you write me a letter? I'll pull up the report, or he'll send me the WDIR report, and I'll immediately type it up. I said, even though it changes the aesthetics of the home, it in no way diminishes the structural integrity of this home. And so I probably write, I'm guessing, 4 letters a week now, where, and I don't, all my competitors, they'll charge you for each letter, and then they'll charge you for each visit that they go back after the original inspection. And one of the things that I enjoy doing the most with mine is because I do 2 inspections a day now, and in between my 2 inspections, I'll normally do 1 or 2 re-inspections. And those re-inspections, I do that because once David calls the listing agent says, okay, we're going to fix this, this, and this, I go back and I make sure they fixed it to our standards, not to theirs. Because some of these contractors, they don't have your best interest at heart. They don't have the seller's best interest at heart. All they're worried about is getting that check. So they'll say they fixed all these lights. One of them will be fixed. The rest of them will be bad. So I'll go back in there and I'll send a report to David again. This was repaired. This was replaced. This had no change on it. And then he can go back to the listing agent and say, these need to be fixed before we close. And when they do that, when I go back for the reinspection, I don't charge you for the reinspection. I would rather know that you were taken care of, and when you get to the table, you're done. That you don't have to go back. We don't have to fight to get it repaired or anything like that. I've seen a couple that the realtor forgot to call me to do the reinspection, and they closed. No repairs were made. I've got one guy right now that's rebuilding his house, and we knew it was in bad shape, but he got a really good deal on it. But now he's in there having to do it because they didn't call me. And he said, if we would have called you, we would have stopped the sale on the house that day, because they're spending a lot of money on this house. So, and I told him, I don't know when y'all are closing. I don't know when I have to go back and do the reinspection. Y'all have to call me. So David's very good about that. He has very good communication. So we talk a lot.
It's more like, what the heck, Pack? What's going on?
Well, we got business to do. So we're going to get it done. Trying to think, the GFCIs, I'm going to check every one of them. A lot of people say, what's a GFCI? What's wrong with it? When I put my tester in there, when I hit test, it sends a bad ground to that outlet. If it doesn't trip that outlet, that means that outlet is bad. So I'll say, replace the outlet. I'll come back and I'll retest it. They'll usually do those. Anytime you have an outlet outside of the house or in the garage, they all have to be GFCI protected just because it's susceptible to water. Bathrooms, kitchens, things like that, they all have to be GFCIs because they're within 6 feet of water. So water is a big no-no for electricity, of course. Everybody knows that. But that's why GFCIs are very important to us. GFCIs, I'm going to check every toilet, make sure it's tight on the floor. A lot of people get upset when I say it's loose and you got to replace the wax seal. People don't understand that wax seal is what prevents your sewage gases from coming back up into the house. One thing that I hit on a lot of houses, when they put the fan in the ceiling of a bathroom, that fan is supposed to be ducked to the outside. A lot of people think, and I know it's funny, but a lot of people think it's for odor and convenience. That fan is to get moisture out of the bathroom. Whenever you're in a shower, and houses with kids are the worst. They think they got to stay in the shower until they run out of hot water. So all that hot water goes up into the attic, and every time I go to one, And if you pull the insulation back, it's full of mold and mildew all up in the attic, up by those fans. So it's very important that you check those. So, and then I'll put a drawing and an illustration on the report on how it should be run. Because I've had some people say, you expect me to cut a hole in my roof for that? No, I don't want you to cut a hole in the roof. But you can just run them over into the soffits and it doesn't cause any problems. So, but that's one of the things I check for. Any type of walls, I mean, if I see something that looks like it's had water on it, I'm immediately going to pull out my moisture meter and I'm going to test it. And sometimes I've found ceilings that had moisture in ceilings. And people say, well, it was a leak there, but we had it fixed 6 months ago. Well, it don't take 6 months of water to dry out. In sheetrock, it should dry out in 7 to 10 days. So if it's longer than that, it's still leaking. I hate to tell y'all that, but it's still leaking. And I had one lady say, a seller showed up at the inspection one day. She said, they just fixed it 2 months ago, and they were here 3 times to fix it. And I said, well, it's going to take a 4th time because it's still leaking. And she thought since she showed up, she was going to bully me around. I said, I can't do it. So I told the buyers, I said, it's still wet. So they made them fix it before they would close. So, but we're not a specialist in everything, but we know a little bit about everything. So anytime I have something that I see something wrong, I'm going to make a recommendation that they send somebody in to fix it. And to save all of y'all here, the buyers don't fix it. The sellers have to fix it. And that's why we're doing, and that justifies us having our job, is because the sellers are going to fix this stuff for you the majority of the time. So, but all in all, we're going to do the complete inspection of the house. We're going to go through it. You're going to have pictures of anything that, if we say it needs to be fixed, the only thing I don't take pictures of is a loose toilet. To me, there's no sense in taking a picture of a toilet. You can't see how loose it is by a picture. But a lot of stuff, a picture will, like say, picture's worth 1,000 words. But a toilet, to me, it's no words. So it's just loose, fix it. So, but anything like that, I mean, I try to make it, and I had some realtors that say mine is one of the easiest to read. One of my reports is one of the easiest to read. I'm from the military, and the old saying is keep it simple, stupid. So I like to keep everything as simple as I can. I don't like to use words that's going to lose you on an inspection. It's not all about that. It's not about me showing you how much I know. It's about me showing you and your realtor that, I'm looking out for you and I want you to get a great home. So it's all pretty self-explanatory when it's all said and done. And when we get done with it, I've done some clients I've inspected 3 and 4 houses for until they found the one that they wanted. So, and each time I do one, I reduce the price a little bit more because I'm trying to help them out as well. So, but trying to think if there's anything else that I'm missing. Anything you can think of, David?
We have 2 questions.
Okay, what you got?
One question is, what does it usually cost for a home inspection?
Typical home inspection is around $300. And sometimes, like I said, if I do more than one, that's typically my bottom line is $300. And but if I go back a second time, a lot of times I'll reduce it to $275, $250. All depends on how far I have to drive sometimes. And that also plays with my re-inspection. I don't charge for re-inspections, but if I go all the way to Biloxi to do an inspection, I'll tell them up front, I'll do the inspection, but if you want me to do a re-inspection, I'm gonna have to charge you $50 to come back, just because I gotta take care of my gas. So, and not only that, it takes away from another inspection if I have to drive that far. So, but it's typically $300, and I don't charge for taxes. I don't charge for credit card fees or anything like that. It's just a cut and dry price. So, but I've had some that went up to $1,500. I've inspected apartment complexes that cost $1,500, but I was there for a day and a half, so it adds up after a while. Okay?
The second question was, would you just do a home inspection for anybody just independently outside of if they have a realtor or not?
Oh, absolutely. I do a lot of them for sale by owners. The inspections that we like the most, and I'll say it up front, is a pre-sale inspection. If someone is selling their house and they want to get it inspected to know what's going on before they ever put it on the market to list it to sell, we can do those. And what that's going to do is, and the reason I like it so much, it takes away the liability that, they're getting this thing done so they can sell it. So in a year and a half from now, if we have a tornado comes through and it rips off 30 shingles, they're going to say, well, my shingles flew off. You didn't tell me that. Well, no, that was a year and a half ago. So, matter of fact, I had one call me yesterday. I closed on my house July 6th of 2021. And we knew the roof was going to be bad. And as soon as he's talking, I pull up his report on my phone. And I said, well, I told you that we need to see a roofing contractor because you had some issues with the roof. It had been repaired, and I wanted a roofing contractor to come in and evaluate the repairs that had already been done because they looked pretty slouchy to me. So they went in, they fixed it again, and he said, well, it was never leaking before they came in and fixed it. Well, to me, that's the contractor that did that. That wasn't me that missed it because I caught it. And he says, well, when we got up there, he said, we're getting a new roof put on it now. When we got up there, the shingles are just falling off. I want to know why that wasn't in my report. Well, I can't predict the future. I've been called a smart guy before, but I can't predict the future. And I'm really not smart either. But it's something that I find it kind of humorous that this guy's calling me over a year later saying, I got issues with my roof. How come you didn't tell me I was going to do this? I can't see that. I mean, I told him we have to get it checked out. They had it checked out. The specialist told him it was fine. And now all of a sudden he wants to come at me about it, but it's done. So, but yes, we do a lot of for sale by owners without a realtor, but I don't get to see David when I do that. So, all right, anything else? Anybody else got questions? A metal roof, we typically, the question was, what is the process for me to inspect? What is the process for me to inspect a metal roof? A metal roof is always, I've walked a couple because most of your metal roofs are a high pitch, and when they're a high pitch, we're not going to walk it because it's dangerous to us and it's dangerous to the roof. So, but what we'll do is I'll take my ladder and I'll go all the way around. And a lot of times if I do a metal roof like that, I'll have my binoculars with me. And the big thing about metal roofs is make sure that up at the very top, it's supposed to be like a pitch to the metal where it goes up under your ridge cap. And we want to look at that ridge cap, make sure there's no water coming in that ridge cap. Because a lot of times, a lot of people think about inspecting a roof, they think it's just on the roof. To me, a roof will tell you a lot more when you look in the attic. So when I'm up in the attic and I love the big pitch roofs when I'm in the attic because I can stand up and I don't have to crawl and go everywhere. So whenever I do that, I'm going to walk all through the roof. I'll look for any history of moisture in the insulation. And insulation and wood do not lie because wood, once it gets stained, it never goes away. You'll always have stains on wood once it gets wet. So I'll start looking at those stains. I'll check them with my moisture meter, make sure they're dry. And here lately, we've had so much rain, there's not a stain that's going to lie. So once you start looking at that stain, when you test it, if it tests dry, then it's dry. It does not have a leak anymore because with as much rain as we've had this season, it doesn't dry out. So, but to answer your question, we're going to walk all the way around the roof, look at it with binoculars, get on a ladder, look at it from the edge, make sure all the, typically the biggest problem with a metal roof is the screws back out. They'll back out on the south side, typically. That's the side that the sun is on, because when the heat comes and goes away, it's going to, it's going to move. And when it moves, it'll push those screws out. So a lot of times on the south side of the house, they got to go in and they'll just have to tighten up the screws is basically all they do. And after a few times they do that, then they'll want to put bigger screws in it. And then we annotate that in the report if we see that. So, but a metal roof is so much better than a shingle roof. Because living in the South right now with the heat that we've had these last couple of years, you can take 5 years off of a 25-year shingle roof. So, you're lucky to get 20 years out of a shingle roof anymore. So, if the sun don't get it, the storms will. So, all right, anything else? No other questions? So, well, I appreciate your time. And like I said, there's business cards out on the table. If you have questions about a pre-sale or if you want me to check out your house before. Now, one thing I do, I won't charge you to come do an inspection. Sometimes people say, well, you go through and look real quick before I write an offer. Well, a lot of times I can't do that. But if for some reason the realtor says, yeah, you can go look. A couple of times I've gone and looked before they put an offer in on the house to kind of tell them yes or no. And I'll look in the crawl space and see if you can kind of tell when you first look in. So if it's really bad, you probably don't want to put an offer in on this house. So like I said, I'm trying to protect that buyer as much as I can. So, but yeah, if you will just give me a call, we'll work it out. And all that stuff is very flexible, and we'll work around anything we can. So, but anyway, once again, yes, ma'am. Ma'am?
Question is the cost for the metal roof the same?
The cost for a metal roof, they say, is about, I think it's 3 times higher than a shingle roof, but it lasts like 6 or 7 times longer. So if you're building a house, and I'm going to start building mine next year, it will have a metal roof on it. It will, because they're a lot less likely to leak. Shingles don't fly off of metal roof. And, a shingle will have 3 to 4 nails in each panel of shingles, where each piece of metal is going to have probably 30 or 40 screws in it. So they just hold so much better. So, but anyway, okay. Anything else? We can go with questions all day long. I like questions. So, but I appreciate your time, and anything, like I said, anything we can do to help you, make you more comfortable with your home, we're going to do that. And between David, Molly, and me, we're gonna make you comfortable, and you're gonna be able to sit back and enjoy your Sunday afternoons after service.
After service.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
After service.
That's right.
Appreciate it, Pat. All right, we're gonna have my beautiful fiance come up and do the last 3 drawings for the gifts. Give her a hand, everybody.
Thank you, honey. No quiz this time. I just did a random number generator based on everybody that signed in. So our first one goes to Beverly Moses. Beverly. Oh, it's in the back. Okay. Must be present to win. Must be present to win. Number 2 is going to Michelle Thompson. Michelle. Okay, there we go. And the last one is going to Ashley Young. Ashley Young. Okay, there we go. Thank y'all so much for coming and for signing in. If you haven't signed in, then let me catch you on the way out. Thank you.
Thanks, babe. All right, well, I appreciate each and every one of y'all for coming. We're going to wrap it up. Molly, Zach, Pat, love y'all. I appreciate y'all for real. Special shout out to everybody in Wells Realty. I was going to get Jerry to come up. You going to come up? No? Well, this is Jury Tinsley. She's a part of us. You stand up to Miss Thelma. She's a part of us too as well. Any one of us can help you guys out in y'all home buying process. Like you said, we're going to make y'all feel like family. If you have any questions, Miss Lisa, she's the mom. This is the broker, Miss Lisa Wells. She's guided us through everything. I appreciate you too. And yeah, like I said, if you guys need anything, you guys can reach out to Zach. You guys can reach out to Molly, Pat, and me after the event. We do have refreshments in the back, so if you guys are hungry, please get the food. Walk out straight, and it's to the right. I appreciate y'all for coming.
All righty. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you, David. Appreciate you guys so much. Eat the Chick-fil-A, get those Krispy Kreme donuts. We've rebuked all of the calories. There are no calories in it. We've rebuked them. Thank y'all for being here.
Is there anybody here today that know that we serve a great God? Come on, I say, is there anybody here today that know that we serve a great God? I'm talking about the man that woke us up this morning and started us on our way and put the breath in our body. He gave us the eyes to see and the legs to walk. Hallelujah. Restored and you made me